Hi everybody, my name is Tom McManaman. I'm the teacher of the English 2 honors class. I want to welcome you to open house this evening. I want to start by apologizing that I can't be there with you. In 11 years teaching at FHS, I've never missed an open house before. It's disappointing for me, but I had a family obligation to which I really needed to attend. So I wanted to put together this presentation for you so you got at least a similar experience to the one you would get if I were there with you. Here's a picture of me. If you ever see me at Stop and Shop or at some FHS event, this is the devil that your sons and daughters have been talking about the last few weeks. Please, if you do run into me, feel free to pull me aside, introduce yourself. Again, this is the night I usually get to put faces to names, and I'm disappointed I can't do that. So let me know if we run into each other, and of course feel free to drop me a line by email or phone at any time if you have questions or concerns. So what are we actually doing this year? We're going to work on critical and close reading skills, on relevant and specific writing, on shared inquiry, discussion skills. We do that heavily with Socratic Seminar. We'll have students improve their research and research skills. We'll work on presentations. And those are the main skills we do. For the content, a lot of it we focus on big thematic ideas that help us frame our units of study. So for example, in Antigone, which we've just started this week, we'll be talking about the idea of why are conflicts all often right versus right? How can two opposing forces be working against each other but both have a right point of view? No one's really wrong. For A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, when we fight monsters, how can we prevent ourselves from becoming a monster? For the course as a whole, we'll ask ourselves, why do writers write what they write? As we're looking at this list, we see that very heavily we're focused to this idea of skills and skill development over the course of the year. The content is important, but it's almost secondary to these idea of reading, writing, language, and speaking and listening skills that we'll be heavily focused to. I thought the best way to tackle this presentation tonight was to give you an idea of what we're looking for in student work, what we're working towards in student work. I know not every student comes in the same place, even in an honors class, but I want to give you some examples of things we're trying to push students to do. So this example comes from the play Antigone that we're starting this week. We're going to work with a lot of study guides for that play and trying to get them to develop responses to really specific questions. So in this question, what is Haman's attitude towards his father Creon in scene 4? Haman the son has just come in. He's very upset that he's heard his father is banishing and perhaps executing the love of his life. So rightfully so, a little upset. And so we get this response. When Haman first talks to his father about Antigone's death, his attitude seems odd. He was very supportive of his father's decision. You make things clear for me and I obey you. Haman felt his father was making a fair decision. We see here this is actually a relatively complete answer. There's evidence to support it. It's not a wrong answer by any stretch of the imagination because Haman does say those things. So why is it a 1? That's what I'm calling it. Well, let's look at a 2. Haman's attitude towards his father is respectfulness and loyalty, shown when Haman says, "You are my guide, you make things clear for me, and I obey you." Although Haman also thinks that Creon should not be so headstrong and should listen to the people of Thebes. This is shown when Haman says, "Do not believe that you alone can be right." We see in this response that there's more than one side to what the son is saying. Yes, he is showing that respect, but also we're getting into this idea that maybe he's not completely right, maybe there are other people who are right. And so it's just a more developed, more complete response to the question. So we look at the 3, we automatically see it's more developed, it is longer, not that longer is always better, but there's a more complete, more developed response here. In the beginning of scene 3, you think Haman agrees with his father about sentencing Antigone to death. Creon asks Haman if he hates him for sentencing his future wife. Haman says, "I'm your son, you are my guide, you make things clear for me, and I obey you. No marriage means more to me than your continued wisdom." However, as Creon continues to speak, there's a change in Haman's opinion. Haman tells Creon what the city is saying about his decision. He says that the city does not agree with him and that Antigone was trying to give her brother a proper burial. Creon tells Haman, "You will never marry her while she lives," and Haman replies, "Then her death will cause another." Haman understands that this is what Creon believes, but if Antigone dies, then he will die too. Again, more developed, we see both sides, and it's a more complete response in regards to both sides. So that's the 3. As we look at the 4, right away the first sentence is what jumps out. at me. Haman's attitude towards Creon is at first very respectful, but as he begins to understand the injustices of Creon's thinking, his attitude becomes more defiant. Right away, first sentence, main idea is clearly expressed and shows both sides of the conversation. Even going back to the three, we look at that first sentence and it says, you think Haman agrees with his father about sentencing Antigone to death. It's only that first part of the conversation where this really covers the whole thing. The development goes on, and looking at it, after hearing his father make an impassioned speech about the evils of anarchy and the absoluteness of laws and government, his attitude changes. He tries to reason with his father about the necessity of following the laws and about the wisdom in asking others for advice, but he still maintains his respect. I cannot say, I hope that I shall never want to say that you have reasoned badly, yet there are other men who can reason too, and their opinions might be helpful. When Creon refuses to accept this view and adamantly insists that he alone, and the response actually even goes on from there and is longer. Again, I know all students are not here walking in the door, but this is the type of response we're trying to get them to see and understand that they can do, that they have the ability to do. And that's what we'll be working on all year. Some other information for you. We do keep writing folders in the room. I get questions on why we do that, and the best reason I can give you is because it's great evidence and data when I'm speaking with students. I get students all the time coming in and asking, why am I getting this grade on a quiz? And we can start to look at many quizzes and see if there are trends. And usually what happens is we say, oh wow, you're getting this type of question, a main idea question, wrong all the time. When you're reading, let's try and look for these things. I can give them some tips, some tricks, and usually that helps us solve the problem. Also, if you ever want to come in and have a conversation about how your son or daughter is doing, that's great evidence for us there as well to actually look at something in front of us instead of just speaking anecdotally. I always want students to feel prepared in my class, so I give them a cycle syllabus that tells them what's coming for classwork and homework. And while we're talking about that, on my website, macapedia.blogspot.com, if you look on the left here, you'll see general announcements and news, but the thing I really want to focus on is under syllabi and agendas on the right. If you click on English 2 Honors, a Google document will load, and this is that cycle syllabus I give them. I always upload it here as well, and it just tells you what's coming in class and for homework. The most recent one is always at the bottom. I just paste the newest document down on the bottom so you can see what we're doing in class and what's expected of students. So if you want to keep up to date on what we're doing, that's a good way to do that. We're really focused to the writing process in here on the idea of performance, feedback, and revision. I tell students all the time that the process is just important, if not more important right now than the goal, than the final product. Because I know we're a work in progress. We're constantly trying to improve. So we're really focused on the idea of students using relevant and specific detail in writing, full development of ideas, a complex thesis, which we've been focusing on really heavily over the last couple weeks, and a strong line of development to follow that thesis. We do a variety of reading assessments. It's not just quizzes. We do Socratic seminars, annotation of texts, and those work into perceiving patterns in a text, articulating what those patterns are, and discerning what the best information is from maybe not the best. We're going to work on grammar usage, on vocabulary. We'll do a lot of MCAS prep. They'll feel very prepared for that, and they'll know what's coming, and they're all great readers and writers are going to do very well on that exam. And by the end of the year, we'll be moving into SAT prep as well. My contact information here, email, is the best way to get in touch with me. Also my phone extension, the website. I'm after school Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, so Thursday is that official callback day. If you have any questions, concerns, again, I hope you'll get in touch with me. I'm sorry I couldn't be there again tonight, but I hope we get to catch up at some point soon, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thank you very much for stopping by.